be just a basic intro, and I want to I'm gonna let you introduce yourself. Of course, I'm
Okay.
Dan, host of the show, and you can introduce yourself. Okay.
Nikki Sanders, and I'm a
And
therapist here in Osceola County, and I'm good friends with Damien.
okay, great. That's great. So, like I said, we went over a couple things before the show, and I just want to kind of reach out and kind of just tell me what do you do exactly? Therapists, we hear that term a lot. We just want to find out exactly what does all that encompass.
Specifically, I am a crisis prevention therapist. I deal with mental health, all shades of it. I
Mhm.
say shades because I deal with ADHD, I deal with schizophrenia, bipolar disorder, multiple personality disorder. Oh my gosh, you name it, I'm dealing
Hmm.
with it. I've dealt with
Yeah,
it.
it sounds
Eating
like it's a lot of.
disorders, socialization disorders. There's so many out here. Narcissistic disorders. There's various. It's so many that I deal with.
Yeah.
Yeah, personality disorders. It's an array of them. It's so many.
So out of all those different disorders, what do you get the most contact with? What do you encounter most in the field?
Right now, I've encountered mainly ADHD and schizophrenia and bipolar disorder.
Now, ADHD, well, schizophrenia and bipolar, I could see that would be crisis, but ADHD, that's crisis as well.
Well, and when it's a youth, so
Hmm.
youth going from youth to adulthood, various things happen. They begin to spin out of control, as the kids call it, crashing out.
Yes,
Yeah.
I've heard that term a lot.
And that's new for me because usually we used to say spazzing out or just out of control, just don't know how to sit down or how to enter or exit a room without being chaotic or anything. They go from 0 to 100 at times. There's no in between.
Mhm.
There's not like a in between where you can slow them down and get them to calm down. It takes time. That's why
Mhm.
therapy is so important, so they can better understand how to get the coping skill to bring that down on their own if they feel that they are about to crash out.
Okay. Now, question: how common is that?
you know I feel it's very common, but it's oftentimes, as when we grew up in our era, it's
Hmm.
dismissed or it's overlooked.
Hmm.
It's overlooked for a child who is very rambunctious,
Hmm.
a child who is not focused,
Okay.
a child who, what they used to call now, what they realize now is really heavy, is an IEP, individual plan for a kid who has ADHD.
Hmm.
That plan is very tailored specifically to the child's needs in a
Hmm.
classroom structure. But what happens with that is that same tailored to the classroom structure is not designed for the home.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
you have a child that has one way of thinking in an environment like school, but then when they go home, it's something totally different because ADHD can be triggered. It could be triggers. I may not like the cologne you have on. I may not like the room too bright. I may not like the room too dark. I might
Hmm.
have a fear of, the room being too cold or too hot. ADHD it's a triggered emotion in a lot of
Hmm.
ways. It can come from food. A lot of times what I eat at school may not be what I eat at home. That's why it's variations of it. A lot of it is environmental. And what we talked about early in our conversation, it's hereditary. It's something that's, passed
Hmm.
on from
Yeah.
the mother's womb.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
to try to pinpoint where it actually comes from, I would have to go back to school and scientifically go through the process of really finding out.
Yeah. And the thing about it also, I want to see how common is in African American households.
I think that a lot of what we see is really and I'm not going to really say generational. It's how you raise a kid in your household. And
Hmm.
I learned differently to do my children than what, raise my children differently than what my parents raised me. I was what they call a latchkey kid. You know what a latchkey
Hmm.
kid
Yeah,
is, right? You
exactly.
know how, we grew up on
Mom and
that,
them gotta
right?
go to work, and look here, don't open my door for nobody. Open for
So
no my door
that
for
wasn't,
nobody, and don't
that's
have them
not a
people in my
thing.
house. Yep, don't have them kids in my house. You know what I'm
Right.
saying?
The neighbor knew, and who you could trust. Most of my neighbors were school teachers that taught at my school or was in
Mhm.
my community, some form or fashion, maybe at my church or things of
Yeah.
that nature. So they knew us. But here it is now. I can be honest with you. I don't even know my community. So my kid
Mm,
is not a latchkey kid. My kid is a kid that is picked up by me, dropped off by me,
I
or
mean,
vice versa.
yeah.
The Uber ride is designated based on his age and based on
Yeah.
preference. I have a tracking. I know I can track my kids' ride from where they're going and
Going
where
and
they're
where they're coming
stopping
from.
and when they're,
And see,
yeah,
and that particular technology wasn't available at the time when we were
no.
out. But what happens now that we do have this technology, it does give ease of use to these things. And just
Mm-hmm.
like, and as well, I want to say the ADHD thing, it wasn't such a phenomenon back then. Matter of fact, I don't really, I'm just trying to think, when did I first start hearing this term? Because, that term wasn't thrown around in schools back then. And there were
Yep.
probably students or children that showed signs of ADHD, but
Mm-hmm.
maybe we just didn't know what to call it. And that's what I
I,
was
I,
thinking. But when did
they
it get that
normalized
term?
they normalized us. So we were basically the kids that hid in plain sight.
Mm-hmm.
So you would put the kid in the classroom unless they was just completely disrupted. And then that's when you
Mm-hmm.
had the classrooms, what they call self-contained. So that was that
Mm-hmm.
classroom that you had a cool kid that you hung out with probably at PE, or you hung out with, say, at practice after school. But that was the kid that did all 7 periods in a
In one class.
classroom. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And you were like, well, what's going
It's a
on?
lot of
Why?
them.
And then, but we never questioned it. We kind of knew what was going on, but we never really questioned it. And those were the kids. And then now, again, they do hide them in plain sight unless they put them in a self-contained, which I worked in a self-contained at one point in time just to try to
Yeah.
understand
Some sound.
certain disorders with kids.
Mm-hmm.
And it was really hard for me because you're talking several hours in a room to try to entertain one child to say five other kids who have five of other different situations.
Situations, yeah.
Yeah, and it was tough. It was tough because then you have to pair them with someone because
Mm-hmm.
of their mental health need.
Now here's a question. How long have you been doing that?
So I recently went into my licensures. So that's what I'm
Mm-hmm.
doing now for the state of Florida. But I am telehealth now in Ohio. I'm contracted online.
Hey,
So
kudos.
yeah,
Kudos to you.
thank you. So
Yeah.
I'm just now, but I've been working in the mental health field now going on about 6 years. I
About six
started
years.
out, yeah, I started out in DJJ, started out at OYA,
Youth
which was a Orlando youth facility, a
authority.
level 6. And basically I had 17 boys that were substance abuse and mental health.
Mm-hmm.
And they were on my unit. I was their case manager, and
Mm-hmm.
I basically worked the entire system for them. So it went from like whether or not they're going to be direct file. Direct file, there's certain specifications that the judge wants. Are they in school? Are they attending school while they're in the facility? Have they gotten some type of rehabilitation? Have you put them in some type of program within the program to show that they have some remorse to the crime in which they've committed or been
Okay.
accused of?
So, and that was with juvenile justice, right?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Now, I think things like that, it's good that, being the person who you are, being able to work with children like that, it gives you a way to give back to our community and, just to us as people. Because I know I'm pretty sure, we're pretty much skewed as far as participation in those programs. So it's
Absolutely.
always good to have somebody, a familiar face or a like face, or somebody just with like characteristics and being able to address those issues. But the question
Absolutely.
is, how did you end up, what guided you there? Was that a goal when you graduated high school or when you came out of college, or I mean, how did we end up there? Because I remember,
That's
a
a
long time ago, we worked together. We worked
yes.
together on the casino ship, and and I know those are just, there's a difference between a job and a career. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
And a lot of times we were young and you're just looking for a job. You know what I'm
That's
saying?
it.
And
That's
that's what it
it.
was. It was a job. It was a means to an end. And
Yes.
we were just doing that. But the question is, what guided you through all these things to end up in the mental health field? Period. So, you know,
So I interned for an attorney out of Brevard County. His
hmm
name was Daniel Martinez. I was his
I've heard of
lead.
him.
Yeah, I was a lead paralegal for him. He inspired me to go to law school, and I had got accepted into Harvard Law.
Mm.
It was very
Sure.
stressful to try to, make that work. And I was also pursuing my licensures at the time for bail
Hmm.
bonding. So,
Okay.
with that being a major factor of financial backing to go into law school, because law school is expensive.
Hmm.
And during the time, I'm noticing that the attorney I'm working for has mental health issues.
Wow.
Yes. And so with that, he was a substance abuse user. Let's just be honest.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I was not his enabler. I was more like the little person that sat on the shoulder and said, "Hey, you can get through this today. You can function without having to use anything to get you through." Because there were
Hmm.
several times that I noticed that the off balance was really off balance. And with me trying to help in the office and still maintain a job and still try to go to school, it was a heavy laden for me. And
Wow.
most recently, a year ago, he committed suicide.
Oh, wow. Wow.
Yep, he
And that
committed.
must have been a difficult environment to work in as well.
Yes,
Just,
yes,
knowing that,
both, because
because
I'm
it's
getting
like
people out of jail, and then I'm trying to go to school, and then I'm helping him in the courtroom, and it was just a lot. It was a lot of
the thing
balance.
what makes you think, what was his effectiveness, being that, being a substance abuser, was he
I
very
think
effective?
I Damien, I really think that it weighed heavy on him, case by case, because we
Uh-huh.
also did a case that is a local case we were doing. He also did, well, the local case in particular was going to be like pro bono, but it was a case for a death penalty case. And
Mm-hmm.
that was weighing heavy on him as well. Also, we did To Catch a Predator. We did a lot of those cases. That's how I got introduced to being in Kissimmee, because we
Mm-hmm.
used to come to the
That's what it
Kissimmee
used to.
courthouse, yeah,
Uh-huh.
to
Because I heard a lot of that's
represent.
going over in Osceola County. Yeah.
Yes, it is. It is a big trafficking hub.
Issue.
This is
Yeah.
it's very, very popular for that. It's known for that. And he
Mm-hmm.
also he spoke Spanish, so he was bilingual.
Okay.
So a lot of times he was very beneficial. He was a great asset to the community as far as representation and helping, because a lot of his clients did not speak English. So he was
English over there,
there.
yeah. And I
Yeah.
know that area is really popular. It has a large Hispanic
Mm,
you know.
indeed, indeed. And he was very good. Daniel was very good at what he did. But he
Hmm.
inspired me so much so that I felt like I had to keep going. I couldn't
Going.
just stop. Yeah. And we talked all the time. Daniel and I talked so much so until we talked through his adversities, my adversities. We
Hmm.
exchanged, growth
Okay.
stations. To the point where he got remarried. He married, divorced, and then got remarried again. He even has a young child that he won't
Hmm.
even see grow up. Baby, I think, had
Wow.
just started walking when
S-
he killed
So
himself
that just happened recently. What you said about a
last
year
year.
ago?
Yeah,
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
happened.
That must have been tough. You know what I'm
It
saying?
really was. It really was. It was extremely. But I'm grateful that someone had the
Hmm.
compassion to show me, because we look for our parents to prepare us.
Pairs. Yeah.
And I'm not saying my parents didn't prepare me, but I don't think my parents really knew what I was so interested in, because all they felt like I could do was hair. I was a hairdresser for a long
Yeah.
time. So
Yeah.
it was like, oh, she just want to do hair. She don't want to
Yeah.
go to
Yeah.
school.
I remember that. I remember that. The hair. Yeah. Yeah, right. I remember the hair. Definitely.
Absolutely. Yes.
But yeah, in situations like that, especially when you experience loss of life, so those are
Mhm.
traumatic experiences, and traumatic experiences tend to stick with us a little longer than our everyday stuff, and it's just a lot to take in account, and actually be able to pass on, and then to continue forward ourselves in a healthy space, after
Yes.
something like that happens. So that's something that how have you navigated that going forward? This is like, we're talking a year ago.
So I've had a therapist for a while.
Hmm.
Therapists need therapists. We're no different.
Lawyers need lawyers, therapists
Lawyers
need
need,
therapists.
yeah, there you go. And it doesn't make
Makes
sense for
sense.
me to be my own therapist, right? So I do have one. I've had one for the same one for years now,
Mm-hmm.
who has really taught me through a lot. And I'm grateful for her
Mm-hmm.
because she really knows how to give me a nice balance to
Mm-hmm.
whatever it is that I feel I cannot handle because I'm human, and
Yeah.
I have a conscience, I have empathy, I carry all these things and I had to learn how not to carry
Mm-hmm.
those heavy ladens. So she has given me coping skills, to learn how to do that. And a lot of it is just letting go. You can't save the world. You don't have a she tells me all the time, you don't have a cape on, Nikki. You're not a superhero. I know you love the Marvels, which I do. I'm a Marvels at DC. Yeah, I love, right? But you can't save the world. But what you can do is continue on with the that's been given. And that's really communicating, teaching people how to communicate in a healthy way. And that's something I had to relearn, for myself in a lot of ways with this, because some people, they don't know how to talk to you. They don't, they say things like, I gotta get on your level. Well, what is my level? And what level are you speaking of? Things like that. So communication is key. That's why I
Yeah.
don't really like to text. I
Yeah,
can't.
that term there, low key, sounds like shade when somebody just get on your level. I don't know. Is that shade? Or, I gotta kind of take that in for a minute. I gotta kind of listen to that. Like, he's trying to throw some
Like,
shade
what
at me.
level are you
Yeah,
saying?
yeah,
Well,
exactly.
where?
I mean, I understand that. That makes sense. That definitely makes sense. I don't know. Just going through stuff like that, and how has this affected your personal life?
I haven't really thought about it. I have not really thought about it. I think that I pray a lot, and
Mm-hmm.
I I move how God allows me to move. If I could honestly, say that, because a lot of
Mm-hmm.
people don't like to talk about religion.
I don't know
And
why. You
yeah,
pray
a lot.
every night, but you don't want to talk
I
about
can
religion.
tell you, Damien, they do not. A lot of people, like with my company, they'll tell us we have to ask the client first. Can we even talk about religion? If they say
Mm-hmm.
no, we have to respect that, because
Mm-hmm.
some people have different beliefs, right?
Yes, yeah, yeah, and that's true, and I understand that. But I just
Yeah.
know, sometimes people believe in themselves up until it's time to do something. Don't nobody
Mm.
believe in God until it's a God moment. You know what I'm saying? Till you 2 seconds from dying, now it's God.
Oh, no, I need the Lord.
Yeah, I need
No,
the Lord. Please help me, Lord Jesus, Lord. Well, I ain't seen the inside of a church for years, but
that
that
is so true.
is that's just what
Yep.
it is.
Yeah,
And so.
I trust in God. I really do. I trust everything that he said he'll do and then some for me.
Mhm.
I've been down. I've lost everything at a few times in my life. But
I think
everything that
we've
I've
all
lost, he's
experienced some.
gained. Yeah,
Yeah,
I've gained.
everybody's always experienced some negative energy or some type of adversity in their lifetimes, and
Mhm.
sometimes it may not be as significant as losing everything, but I mean, in one way or another, we've all lost. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
And we made the decision to keep living, and
Mhm.
made the decision to keep living. We continued forward. So
Right. And
yeah.
not giving up. Because, I
Hmm.
could have I could've said, I don't want this anymore. But you got to be careful, in what you speak. You know,
Hmm.
my mama always tell me it's life and death in the tongue. That's biblical. So, yeah.
Yeah.
So speaking life into myself is what I truly do on a daily basis. If you say, how do I deal with it? I speak life into myself each and every day. I got to get up. I got to eat. I got to exercise. I got to love on me. You know,
Hmm.
I go and look at my parents and I talk to them, they right next door, right? So I get an opportunity to go
Yeah.
in and have a conversation, joke a little bit, just go and spend quality time with my family. Go and spend time by myself, so I can, reinvent some things, go and
So
discover some things.
yeah. Now, are you saying that now? That's kind of telling me how is this? You have your parents living with you,
Hmm.
and how has this affected? Because I assume at this point, I think we haven't really talked about it, but I assume, are you single?
I am single,
So
yes.
yeah. So how has that affected dating?
So I'm single by choice.
Yeah. Well, no, I'm just saying with your parents living with you. I mean, I know that's like a full time
It's
job.
a child.
That's
And
a
I still have
challenging
my
job.
father who says, if he can't bring nothing to the table, don't bring him here to eat. He can't
Uh,
bring nothing to the table. He can't sit to the table.
yeah,
But
that
that's
makes
just
sense.
old school. That's just old
Yeah,
school.
and that's just a father caring about his daughter. You know.
Absolutely. But yes, dating for me is just what it is. It's dating. It's trying to figure out whether or not you are compatible with someone. I've been on a few dates and I
Hmm.
keep running to somewhat similar of the same type of, format. They'll start out.
The same person in a different body.
Yes, yes, yes. And even if you change a location as to where you meet or you kind of do something different, it's still like that. You get a lot of hesitancy, or you get they're so ready to like just have an intimate moment with you. And I'm thinking, like, I'm 52. Like, I need more than just that. Like,
That
I know what
now
that is, but
now
can we have a conversation?
now I've heard, like I said, we've talked about this in this space before about relationships and how attraction works. And when
Mm,
we tend to run into the same person in the same, and the same person in different bodies is something that we're choosing. It's something that we are as the person we're choosing in these people.
okay.
And we wonder, like I say, I don't remember how if whether or not we talked about putting a finger on that, but I know it's something that we have to identify that, like, why am I choosing this same person over and over? It's like, I mean, if I'm not good at anything, I'm good at picking out that same person through all
Mm-hmm.
these other people. And
Mm,
I'm thinking, is it a attraction thing? They tell you certain things that we're attracted to. Is it something that subconsciously we're attracted to? Because I mean, it's not just you. I mean, all of us have done it at one point in time.
right.
And you're like, this is the same person. It's just in a different
Right.
body. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Because I'm getting the exact same effects, the exact same
Yes.
outcome, and I'm running
Hmm.
to the exact same roadblocks. And
Yes.
so, and I know it can't be just that many bad people out there, but it's something about us as people that, maybe things that we haven't addressed yet that allows us to attract the same person over and over and over. And it's something that, they say once you get past that, you free yourself. But the
Okay.
question is how?
Uh,
And what do I change to set me on a path of redemption, to go forward, to be more responsible and be more, I want to say, wide open, because I want to
mhm.
be more liberal in my choices, you know what I'm saying? And
Okay.
in order, because there are things, that we can do. But like I said, I haven't, that's a whole nother thing. I'm not an expert on that. I'm just,
I'm not.
like I say,
I just
I,
know. I just know all I had is physical first before anything. All
yeah,
you have is
and
physical. What
everybody,
someone looks like. You
yeah,
know.
physical.
That's it. That's what you
Yeah,
have
and
first going into it. Then
but
you
you know what?
have
But that is
conversation.
important. We can't take that away from you, because that's important as well.
It is.
Because it is hard. It is extremely hard, if not impossible, to
Hmm.
be committed and devoted to someone you're not attracted to.
Oh my
If the initial
gosh.
attraction isn't there,
Then
like
it's
what they
not going to
say,
be anything.
your
It's
heart
not.
isn't in
Yeah.
it. You know what I'm saying? So
Exactly.
I mean, that is one step. We kind of put, as we get older, people tell you to play down the attraction part, but I'm sorry, the attraction definitely still has to
I'm
be
glad
there.
you're saying that because I worried about that. I was like, do
People
I
say, oh,
have a type?
yeah,
You
and they tell
know?
you, oh, maybe you could just date anybody that look like anything, and I'm like, man,
Nah, I
it
can't
ain't gonna
do it.
work, because I'm not consistent. I'm gonna wake up one morning and be tired of lying to him. You know what I'm saying? So no, it ain't gonna work. I mean, if it is, I just gotta thug it out. You know what I'm saying? On the
And I don't
different
want to do
situations.
that. I
Yeah.
did that. I did that, Damien. I did that for
Hmm.
several years. And I can be
Hmm.
honest and tell you. And that was the worst feeling and the worst experience I've
Hmm.
ever been through in my life. And
Yeah.
yeah, I could tell you I did that. I settled, because
Hmm.
like you said, that we've been told by the older people, well, why don't you just get you somebody's a piece of
Some.
man is better than no man.
Oh
And
man, don't believe
long
that.
as he can pay the bills and you think, and vulnerability is something too. Like
Yeah.
you're vulnerable,
Well,
so you probably gonna go for
vulnerable.
anything at that point.
Man, usually it's as people, everybody always tell you, you're born in the world by yourself and this and that and stuff. And my grandmother was the complete opposite. She's like, baby, if you were supposed to be by yourself, it wouldn't be so many damn people here. You know what I'm saying?
I love
and
your
it's like we're gonna go through
trait.
as a person, just as a natural person, you're gonna go through companionship,
Yes.
you're gonna crave it, you know what I'm saying? You're gonna want companionship, you're gonna go through loneliness, all of that
Mhm.
type of stuff,
Mhm.
which is it's just part of human nature. And
Mhm.
this is not advice to say be susceptible, just
Uh,
to pick up anything, but
right.
those emotions and those feelings are gonna be there. So, at least if I'm got to go through that, I'm still gonna pick somebody who I'm attracted to. Attractiveness,
Absolutely.
I can't. That's just like some things are non-negotiable. You know what I'm saying? And
Mm.
I don't think you should. I don't think it's in the best health of the best interest or the health of the relationship if you pick somebody that you have no attraction to, because
And I
what
did
happens,
I did that.
you're gonna be
I've
very
done that.
nonchalant about them. You know what I'm saying?
And they're going to be upset with you because they know after a while that that's what's happening.
And then the worst thing ever that could happen for them is somebody comes along that I am attracted.
Mm.
So boom. So that's what I say, and like I say, and then like I said, this is not a guideline or anything, but it's just something that, I think everybody is people when dating, they should keep that in mind. You know what I'm saying? So
Absolutely. Well, thank you for that because I thought it
yeah.
was just me. I was like, is it
Not
me?
at all. Not at
Can
all.
I, you know?
Because if you don't see no,
Mm-mm.
it's because you cut a lot of corners. There's some corners you can cut, but others you can't. You know what I'm saying? It's just
No.
not going. You know, but for your legacy and your just downright and down the road happiness, future
Mm-hmm.
happiness, certain things you
Mm-hmm.
can't. You're not gonna be able to cut them. You know what I'm saying?
No, you're
People.
not. You
You
have
get
to be
older,
honest.
certain things ain't gonna be important, and I understand that certain things ain't gonna be important. You might want the flashiness and all of the material stuff may die out, but still, somebody got to be easy on the eyes, please. Please be that. Please be that.
Absolutely.
I mean, it is what it
Absolutely.
is.
I agree. I
Yeah.
truly agree with that one. Yes.
So now here's the thing. Going through all of that, how has it been with long term things like engagements, marriage, all that kind of stuff? What do you think on the
Hmm. Long specifically me or just
yeah,
in general?
specifically you?
Oh wow. So for me, I believe in commitment. I really do.
Uh-huh.
I believe in commitment. Long term, yes. There would have been a time I wish I could have been married as long as my parents, 50 years,
Mhm.
right? I
Yeah.
wish I could have been married 50 years to someone.
Yeah,
But
kudos to
that
them.
yeah, but that wasn't in the cards for
Mhm.
me. I often tell people I have more time behind me than I do ahead of me. So I have no time to waste at this
Mhm.
gesture. So I won't waste time on meaningless conversations and meetups and greets and, things of that
Mhm.
nature. I can automatically tell based on just kind of like first introduction that I'm not interested, or if I
Mm.
am interested to move forward.
Forward, yeah.
I used to say there's always like that sweet spot. You'll hear something in that conversation that would say, okay, we'll definitely want to see you again.
Mhm.
But long term, I don't know what long term looks like other than what I've already been through. And I will never, ever waste time like that again. The best thing that ever came out of a long term for me was my children and
And this was a marriage. This
marriage.
yeah,
Yes.
okay.
Yeah. Because I'm married, divorced. Yes.
Well, how long were you married?
So the first time I was married 6 years, and that's my
Mhm.
oldest son. And I was married to the love of my life. We were definitely in love. I do know what it feels like to be in love because he was everything to me. And we didn't have nothing, but we had
Mhm.
each other.
Mhm.
And I loved everything about him, how he talked to me, how he treated me. It was when I got pregnant
Mhm.
and we knew we were having a son, it was then that, his decision to stay in the street because he was a street guy, he was
Mhm.
one of those, that's what kind of went separate ways. And it was nothing that I blame him for, he blames me for. We just knew that I wasn't going to be the wife that had to sit and wait, await you being out there hustling and doing. Well, we could have
Mhm.
did everything legitimately and we didn't have to live like that, but it was in his way of thinking that that's what he chose to do. So we chose to divorce and it was okay. Sometimes
Okay.
it's okay to have to walk away.
Yeah.
it was the second time around for me that just my life was, oh my gosh. And I had to breathe on it. I was like, oh, but I'm so grateful that I'm out of that, and
Hmm.
I rid myself of that, and I healed from that. But sometimes when you talk about it, you still feel those feelings of
Yeah.
how that felt. I felt lonely in my relationship with that person. I felt deprived of intimacy. I felt deprived of good conversation. It just all was like it just blew up in my face as if, I was no longer anybody that he loved or cared or wanted to care for. I was just,
Hmm.
as he stated to me, quote unquote, I was a guest in his house,
I guess. Whoa.
and I was his wife. Yeah, at that time.
Wow, that's
And
crazy.
I should be glad to be in his house, to be able to live in his house.
So how long did that last?
So I was married to him. I dated him 5 years, and then I was married to him for 7 years.
Oh.
And then we've been divorced 10 years. And throughout that divorce, he kept trying to come back. So
Hmm.
that's that, you think a person changed. They haven't changed. They're coming in to make you think that, because that's that control factor. That's that manipulation, because right now whatever it is he had plotted and planned, it wasn't working out over there in his favor. So he knew he had an avenue or a way back to me, because we had a child in common. And usually that's why a lot of people end up back together, because you got a kid together, or you own something together, like an asset at home or something. And one person
Hmm.
may say, well, I put money in this, I need to be over here with you, trying to
Mm.
convince me that this needs to go back to the way it was. But I always say, when God is trying to pull something apart, don't try to put it back together.
Put it back
Don't,
together, you know what I'm saying? You
yeah,
you beating yourself. You trying to open a door God is closed. You know what I'm
yes,
saying?
absolutely.
Hmm. That's
Absolutely.
exactly what that is.
Yep.
Yeah.
And
But
be okay with that. You got to be okay with that. And I'm really okay with that. I
I
really
noticed
am.
in the beginning you were saying that about emotions that when you talk about it, you tend to get passionate about it. And I think that's normal. And I want to say anytime I've ever talked to anybody or, had a, open conversation about something like that, if it's something that you're passionate about,
Hmm.
passion brings about emotion. You know what I'm saying? I
Mm,
mean, it's going to be because it was just really is the truth. You know what I'm saying?
yes.
And sometimes it's hard when trying to coming up in recollection of memories. It's hard trying to separate the emotion from the time now. It's just like it's almost like reliving some of those situations. And like I say, when I do ask about things like that, it's strictly on a volunteer basis, because I
Hmm.
know it's hard, what I'm saying, reliving things over and situations over and over and over, what I'm saying.
Yes, it is. It really is.
Yeah.
But I'm okay with it. I'm okay talking about myself, because it took me some time to get here to be able
Mm-hmm.
to do that. And I can't be who I am career wise if I'm not practicing what I'm preaching. So I
Preaching.
can't help somebody else
True.
if I haven't already healed from what it is I've been through. So it took me some time. It really did. And I'm glad my transition is what it is, because, or how it went about, because I feel even more passionate about helping someone to better understand their situation, and whether they want to leave or whether they want to stay, you know,
Mm-hmm.
that there's ways of working through some things. There might come a time that they would probably open up to a better understanding what they have going on and how they've treated you. But again, that takes time. That takes, somebody actually being open to doing that. And some
Mm-hmm.
people just aren't.
Yeah.
So I mean, if you got that type of patience, then by all means, work through your situation. But me personally, I just felt like when it was over, it was over.
Boy, look here. So, what do you think the long term effects of those, I guess, negative situations or relationships have done? The second,
It gives you it gives you hesitancy.
and
You
that was,
you build you put up a defense, a wall, you know.
mhm. And has it stopped you from going forward, meeting new people, or possibly skewered your options when it came to dating?
Did at one point. It really did, because it was more or less he had already told me that nobody was gonna want me. I had gained
Mm.
weight. You got 2 kids. You a single mom. Things of that nature. And those are the words that you hear from a person who is hurt. So hurt people hurt people.
People.
Yeah. And so with him trying to triangulate, because that's the part of his manipulation, to triangulate me with another person that he was dealing with, to try to like hold me at bay and still have, a situation going on, because he travels. So he's out of state. He's out of state from state to state. He could live a whole double life and you wouldn't even know anything about it.
Hmm.
So for me, it kind of, it's like I was holding on to a little bit of hope, but then I was also learning to let go, because
Hmm.
at that gesture I knew that I needed to do it for Nikki. I needed to find my peace and protect it, and I did
Hmm.
that, and I know my worth.
Hmm.
I knew my worth, and
Hmm.
my worth was non-negotiable as well. I wasn't gonna keep handing my worth to you and you keep crushing it, and and treating it as if I'm nothing. And then I often tell people too that they, the old folks always used to say they don't want you, but they don't want nobody else to want
Just a
you. And
hand, won't you?
so to say that, that's what I was experiencing. But I honestly feel like now, dating for me, I work a lot, but when I am out, I
Hmm.
meet a lot of nice, what I've encountered, a lot of nice gentlemen whose, kids are older,
Hmm.
they're probably grandparent or grandfather or whatever by now. And I
Hmm.
meet people in my age bracket that, have lived life, still have a lot to life to live. They're coming into themselves, they're experiencing different things like places to eat, places to visit, music, culture, art, those are things
Yeah.
that at our age, I'm so open to that, to
Hmm.
enjoying that with my person.
Hmm.
So, and then we have little quirks, nobody's perfect. We all have flaw. And I feel like I'm okay with my person. Should I find my person? I'm okay with my person knowing my flaw. I'm willing
Hmm.
to be that vulnerable, to
Yeah,
open
and,
up
and
to my
and that's the
person.
person that you're supposed to be open, most open with anyway. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Be as open as possible with them, and they can be as open as possible with you.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
definitely, and like I said, and that just determines the whole base of a relationship. But I
Mm-hmm.
just want to say here in 2025, not that relationships are bad or things have been, we know things are different. Let's just say things are
It's
different.
very
It's
different.
just very different,
Yes.
and one of the things I want to say about the difference is it they're different because situations are more discussed in spaces like this or different places? Or is it just, I want to say, awareness now? People are aware of terms. People are aware of bad relationships. People are aware of narcissists. People are
Mm-hmm.
aware of, bad, just bad choices. These are
Mm-hmm.
things people have stepped forward and, announced that I've made bad choices. I've done this, I've done that. And here are things that, haven't worked with me. You know what I'm saying? Maybe
Mm-hmm.
you can look at some of these things and figure out, are there things that haven't worked for you? And maybe you could take this knowledge and put it together and find out what really does work for you. So, yeah,
That's true.
so
I
I think
think
it's a good
social
thing.
media has given us an outlet, a major outlet.
Hmm.
It's given more exposure than you could ever ask for. You
Exactly.
actually can. You don't have to just Google somebody now. You could pretty much go and see
See
just based
exactly what's
on.
going on. And
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
and
They
then
even have this
now,
T app now. This T app is telling all the true tales
yeah,
of.
I heard about the T app. But by now, I don't know if you know this. Yesterday, was it yesterday or day before yesterday? Somebody hacked the T app.
Oh
And what
wow.
they did is they leaked all of the information, like, part of the T app to prove that you're a woman, you have to upload your driver's license, your official driver's license
Mm,
photo.
mm,
So they uploaded, the guy hacked the account, he hacked their server and uploaded everybody's driver's license to the internet. So
mm,
there's a thing you can go on and click on. You can see all these people's driver's license. And I mean,
mm,
it's quite a few. And I don't know what it was about. People, they're trying to, like somebody trying to sabotage the app before it even, came out. But
mm-hmm,
what happens is you see things like this and, now you're like, maybe a little word of caution, because the app was fairly new. And
mm-hmm,
what happens is
mm-hmm,
when you're new, your security protocols aren't, top
mm-hmm.
tier quite yet. And I'm pretty
Right.
sure after this, they have to step forward and they have to
Right.
acknowledge that and pretty much make some moves to counter that. But it's the
Mm-hmm.
fact that it happened.
Yes.
Now it's like, and like I say, I'm sure when you get off this, you can just Google it, T app leak, and it'll
Okay.
show you what happened. And I was like, I just saw this morning myself, and I was like, wow, that was quick. You know what I'm saying? Because
Because
it ain't
it
been
just
out. It couldn't
came
have been out for
out.
like a
It just
month or
came out.
so.
Right.
And
It just came out.
it just came out, and wow, they didn't already hacked the website. Because back in the day, they hacked Facebook, they've hacked Instagram, they hacked all of those
MySpace.
things. Yeah, yeah. At one point in time, because they weren't up to snuff, and
No,
here you look like these people, they didn't give them a chance to get out the box yet. I'm like, wow, this is
it,
a
they
week
did
in,
not.
2 weeks in,
Absolutely.
and but maybe the
And I
TF,
think that they probably mad. Whoever did the
yeah,
hacking,
yeah, it
I'm
could be some
sure
some
they're upset.
disgruntled guy and got his
Yes,
information on there. I'm like, man, if you live like you're supposed to live, you ain't got to worry about the TF, bro.
there
You
you
know what I'm
go.
saying?
You really don't.
Treat people like you're supposed to. Even if you get a disgruntled person here or there, I mean, that's just gonna happen. You can't save everybody. You know what I'm saying?
No, you
Yeah, and they ain't
cannot.
gonna save.
You
Yeah,
cannot.
and you ain't meant to be friends with everybody, honestly.
And
You
I
know,
agree
and
I
people
totally agree with
and
that one.
people
Yes.
don't realize that or want to acknowledge that, but you ain't meant to be friends with everybody, and
No, you're
it just
not.
ain't gonna work out. People
It's not.
personalities, idiosyncrasies, they're just too
Lifestyles.
far. Lifestyles, all of that stuff is just too
Yeah.
far off. So everybody, you're not gonna get along. But it's okay for somebody not to like you, or you not having an affinity for them, and it's okay for them to live their life. It's perfect and it's fine as well. They just don't have to do it with you, or you can do it with them. You don't have to do it with them. You know what I'm saying? I mean, all of that type of trying to sabotage something just because you're upset about something. I mean, what happens is by hacking a website, that hits like kind of attracts to what we call a wiretap law, a federal wiretap law. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
And
Yep.
there are things, so eventually they're gonna backtrack, and usually that always comes out who
And
it
they'll
was.
find out who it is, I'm
A couple
sure.
months from now, we'll see some guy arrested for whatever, a
Right.
person, it might be a woman, ain't no telling.
There you
But who,
go.
but whoever it is, eventually that'll be addressed, and they'll step out to that. So, I
Yes.
mean, it is what it is. That's why I tell them
Yeah.
it is what it is. That.
Can't
But
be
it is
afraid of it. Can't be afraid of something that you wasn't afraid to do in the
afraid
first place
first
of
place,
someone
exactly.
knowing it. Right.
Yeah, you know. So I don't know. Like I say, this has been a good chat. I just
It
wanted to kind of
has
get you
been.
on and just
Thank
see what's
you.
going on with you. And like I say, that space of like psychiatric stuff. I think a lot of people haven't really addressed that, especially in our community. You know,
Hmm.
I want to say a lot of us haven't addressed that as options, as viable options, especially men. You know what I'm saying? Especially men.
Yes.
Some women, but especially men have not addressed that as a viable option. And this seems to be something that can help. As long as you treat it seriously, and you I want to say you kind of get really proactive with it. It is something that probably can help you. Along with
Yes.
spaces like this as well. Like I said, because
Yes.
somebody out there will listen to this and take some of the information that we give out today, and that might make them change their lifestyle. So
I can tell you,
you
like,
know,
each state is so different now based on our administration. So what I'm learning in my internship as well for the licensures, I'm learning that in the state of Ohio, if you
hmm
are applying for benefits,
mm,
like SNAP or any type of financial benefits, right? Food stamps, whether it's housing, food stamps, or anything
hmm
that the government has to, or the state has to relinquish to an individual, right?
mm.
For supplemental, they have to sign on for therapy.
Hey, you know what I'm saying? Hey,
So the
look here.
company I work for, I automatically, right now we have 35,000
Mm.
clients.
Whew.
So my caseload is extremely high.
Job security, job security. That's what it sounds like. Job security. Job
Yes.
security.
And the documentation is very, very important. So if you
Mm,
don't document something, it never happened. I tell everybody, if it don't
exactly.
document, it
If
never
it's
happened.
not documented, it never happened. And,
It
and
never
that's been the
happened.
rule in a lot of places for a long time. Man. No documents, bro. I don't, it's your word against mine. It's like using the
Right?
word if. And if, you used to always tell me, my brother used to say, if means I fantasize. You know what I'm saying? That's what, because if you don't have any documentation, it's an if.
It can't
It's
have
an
anything
if,
to
it was a fit.
support.
Yeah,
That's
there's no
right.
support for it. So, yeah.
So they look for the documentation in order for them to disperse to any client that is
Mhm.
a recipient of, I guess, state funding of some type.
Okay. Okay. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's definitely maybe Florida will pick something up like that as well.
I got a feeling the way it's going and the way it's
Mm-hmm.
appearing, I think that
Mm-hmm.
has way more, I guess I want to say it would make more sense for them to do it that way
Mm-hmm.
than to not than to leave a person out here trying to figure out how to do something, because we also not just offer therapy, we offer like budgeting, finance, things in that department with the mentor, of course. We give you like a team. So you're
Mm-hmm.
not just getting therapy, you're getting a mentor, you're getting someone that can help you with budgeting, resources to help you with other things like housing, things that can support, like, say, your light bill if you can't pay it, or your
Mm-hmm.
deposit if you can't pay that to go into a housing situation. Then
Yeah.
we help in those areas. But again, is I like the way it's being facilitated. I really do. I think
Yeah.
that it has a win-win in the situation. I'm gonna raise my hand and say I would vote this into every state if that's
Mm-hmm.
how we would have to help continued to help families who are in need. That's what I would say.
Now I want to ask: has the recent grant cuts by the government affected you guys?
No, it
You know what
has
I'm
not.
saying?
This is
Nah.
why.
Okay.
This is
Okay.
why. Because they're not leaving it up to the federal government.
They're doing it. The state
The
government is
state.
doing
There you go.
it. Okay.
So
Okay.
that's what supports it even more.
Mm-hmm.
And they're able to get all their needs met. They just have to
Mm-hmm.
have at least 3 hours, up to 3 hours counseling each week,
Mm-hmm.
along with
Okay.
resources that they've gone into to help themselves, say, with a job or something that's going to help them, to benefit. Pretty much benefits are, it's a variety of things, when it comes to that work, moving forward with mental health. The benefit in mental health is to talk to someone, because during their assessment they automatically put in the diagnosis. So all my clients come in with a diagnosis. I don't even have to do the assessment up
So they
anymore.
already, yeah,
They already
they're
come in
already
with one.
ready. Ready.
Yep.
So tell you what, like I say, definitely, I appreciate you for getting on this
I
thing
appreciate
today.
you too.
Just coming out. Just kind of, figuring out what you've been up to, what you got
Yeah,
going
talking to
on.
my good friend. I
Yeah,
still
that's all
picture
good.
you with the little tool thing, fixing
Yeah,
it.
right. Yeah, man. I used, FYI for the people that's watching, I used to be a slot technician at a
Yeah.
casino ship. I used to fix slot machines, and that was my first. That was actually my first job in, like,
Damien, you
IT,
did it
replacing
so
boards.
well.
You
You
know what I'm
did it
saying? That
so
was my
well. You
first
did, and
job, and that,
everybody loved Damien.
yeah,
We get on our
1997.
shift and we have a good time. We had a good
Yeah, oh yeah,
time.
we love that. That was a good job. You know what I'm saying? That
It
was a
really
great job.
was. We
And like I
made
say,
good money. We
yeah,
made
yeah,
good
it
money
it,
back
it went
then.
up. Yeah, it
Yes,
went really, we went way up on that. And so I don't know, it was one something that I do look back on, and when I think about it, I'm like, wow, that was my first thing, and that was just, like I say, my start in IT. That was something I'll probably never forget, and I made a lot of good relationships from there. You know what
you
I'm
really
saying?
did. You really
Yeah,
did.
you
Yeah, you
know.
was the go-to
But
guy. You was the go-to guy on the boat.
yeah. But I tell
Where's
you what,
Damien?
if anybody needs to reach out to you, what you have socials? What's your socials, like
So
IG or
I
anything?
am Facebook
Uh
and I
huh.
am on IG.
Okay.
So
What's
it's
your
Live
IG?
Love Laugh Nick on IG.
Okay.
And I'm on Facebook under Nick. You see this face, you'll see my
Yeah.
Facebook.
I'm
It
gonna
looks the
put the links
same.
up here in the video. I'll
Okay.
link them up there so you'll see them.
Absolutely. Yes, please do. So if anybody needs a referral, I do referrals. We are helping the kids with backpacks, disbursements this year. So if you know anybody that is in need of that, please let
And
me
and,
know.
and
I
where is
have
that? And where
So
is
we're
that in
located in
Osceola?
Osceola County, also Orlando and Seminole. So
Mm-hmm.
Orange and Seminole, I'm able to relinquish help with that as well, or give them the resource to go and
Okay.
help the family. We do have food banks that we also network with, that if they should need help with that, and even
Mm-hmm.
furniture in your home. If there's something that you need, you can also reach out to me as well. So
Hey.
I'm here to help as well, as
Friends.
much as I possibly can.
All righty. Okay. So tell you what, like I say, we'll put this out, and like I say, I definitely, if I know anybody, I'll definitely refer to them to you. So refer
Thank
them
you.
over to you. You
I
know what I'm saying?
appreciate that.
All right. Thanks for
Absolutely.
joining me.
All right. Thank you.
All right.
Bye bye.